Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. It is me once again, screaming into the void of the internet. I'm at home, enjoying a day off. Got to go back to work tomorrow. But, I kind of wanted to make a video talking about something that's interesting that I hear that people often try and say to either credit or discredit certain things. And they say, if you care about something or you claim that you don't care about something, why do you keep talking about it? Right? And it's very interesting because that same topic, someone didn't necessarily bring it up per se, but they asked why I have been making a lot more videos and stuff like that. And number one, I kind of want to say this, I use these videos as a vent because personally I think that therapy, and I don't really like that word therapy, especially considering the connotation that people tend to believe that therapy is, which is oh, I need to go to some supposed shrink, right? Who is either going to do one or two things, right? If you are male, they're probably going to just gaslight you and claim that you need to man up and you need to accept things and you need to accept your role and stuff like that, and that you shouldn't accept that the system is rigged. You need to just accept that, hey, this is what you have to do. But if you are, double X, I'm not going to say the word, right? Because, again, I apparently, they're the oppressed, but I can't even say their names with any form of criticism without YouTube feeling like this is misogynistic content, right? But if you are a double X, then, the system is going to say, well, yeah, obviously it's against you. We don't understand the pains of being double X and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. So when it comes down to therapy, I feel like there's a lot more ways to be therapeutic, whether it's just enjoying video games with a friend, whether it's making videos like this, where it's kind of almost like, a video diary, if you will. It's a video diary for me. It's a nice way to get your thoughts out there, interact with people, get some different perspectives and things like that, whether or not you agree or not. Hopefully you can get different perspectives and not agree peacefully. That's something that a lot of people don't really understand how to do anymore. Disagree peacefully. I'm fine not agreeing with somebody as long as I feel like there's something that I can gain, mentally and stuff like that. It's not about gaining something like financially. It's just, a different way of seeing things. I'm fine with that. But that's something that has been lost over the years. A lot more people feel like they need to get something personally. But the reason why I talk about these things, especially these kinds of topics, the black pill topics, the doomer topics and stuff like that, because some people will try to say, well, if living the single life, if living the bachelor life is so amazing, why do you keep talking about this? Why do you keep encouraging other guys to do it? And I'm not going to say that I encourage other guys to do it. I don't really care if you chose to date and stuff like that. But one of the most important things I feel like if you're in the black pill space, red pill space, whatever space you are in, you should want to be making sure that guys understand the fact of the matter is this world hates you. This world, especially this gynocentric our society, that somebody tried to say in a recent comment that this isn't a gynocentric society. They literally said that this is a patriarchy. So I'm going to just respectfully say this, just in case you're listening, you are out of your mind. And to this day, explain to me if this is a patriarchy. Yes, we could argue that there are men at the top, but hey, listen, they're not catering to us. They're catering to the gals because hey, they want them to vote a certain way because they want this economy in a certain way, and they're going to cater to the person who spends the most money, and it ain't men. Men do not spend the most money. The gals spend the most money. For the longest time, the way that the system worked is the guy earned money for his family and his gal. And a lot of times, when he gave the gal an allowance, she spent that money. And that was where a lot of the random spending, if you love the gal, then give her a diamond. If you love the gal, give her this big fancy wedding dress and stuff like that. So I don't want to hear this bull crap about somehow this is a patriarchy when, again, explain to me if this is genuinely a patriarchy. Why do they get less time for the same crime? Explain why they consistently usually get custody of the kids more. Explain to me why their word is trusted more than a man's in law. Please, explain to me why they can point me out of a lineup of guys and I can go to jail. Now, if I say that a gal struggle snuggle me, nothing happens because the freaking definition of struggle snuggle, okay, of grape, is penetration. Who is that catered towards? Is it me or her? You can go ahead and tell me, oh my God, listen. Being told that you're in a patriarchy when you know dang well that we basically have little to no power in this society is just, it's It's fine. I mean, there are people that genuinely think that that is just the nature of the world, just because there are males running things, that somehow that means that they're constantly looking out for our best interests. Fact of the matter is, even if it was a gal running things, she's going to look out for her best interests. A prime example of this is Patrice Cullors. That's one of the heads of BLM. Okay, those cunts, and I might get banned just for saying that got all that donation money. You know what they did? They laundered the money and they bought mansions with them. And they claimed that that was communism. And in a way, they're right. Yeah, it was communism. Because just like communism claims that they're going to share with you, what they're going to make sure to do is say, hey, we're more equal than you, so we deserve this. Human nature is going to be human nature no matter what ism you want to claim. But the fact of the matter, guys, is there's always going to be new people, that are coming, not necessarily here, but just coming along, and they're just looking for something. They're wondering why life is treating them bad. They're wondering why people just don't seem to care about their plights, especially me. Okay? And I make these videos to say, hey, listen, you're not alone. That a lot of guys have gone through similar things. A lot of guys are dealing with the same things. But you don't have to succumb to like this, and I'm just going to call it what it is, this like masochistic, just negativity grift, where they're just trying to get you to just kind of wallow in self-pity while also, advertising, I don't know, Raid, Shadow Legends, or Manscaped, or whatever freaking sponsors are actually willing to take them. Like, you don't have to succumb to this stuff, okay? You don't have to. You don't have to get into the mindset of, it's over, bro, it's completely over. Listen, there are things that you can change. Just today, my friend straight up asked me, if I could help him because he was a bit short on rent. Not by much, and he said that he felt sad to ask, but without hesitation, I helped him. And the reason for that is because years of me being in a similar position, maybe not on rent, but just like not having anything and not being able to go anywhere and basically just being essentially trapped in my house. And he's easily spent hundreds of bucks on me. So yes, when I can reciprocate, I do it, because I'll be honest, guys, like, tell you the truth, this idea that you have of your head and with love, I feel like the love I have for my friend, and someone's going to say gay jokes and stuff like that, I could care less. The love I have for him, like, as my brother, like, it is more intense than anything I have ever experienced with a gal. And what I mean by that is the fact that I knew in my heart, even when I was in, relationships, that the moment things get tough, they're gone, and I never kind of let it get to me because I was raised by like a lot more women. Like, there were mainly women in my home. So I was very aware of like the things that they did, But my friend, got a girlfriend, and she broke up with him because, like, finance reasons, of course. He was going to skydive, shall we say, off a building without a parachute. And I had to talk him out with that. And that was a very hard thing for me to do because I could not imagine losing that guy, And that's why I feel like it's just stronger. The love that I have for him as my brother is just way stronger because I know it's pure, And a lot of times, some of the only instances you'll ever see a guy cry is when the thing that he loved and loved him back strongly, or when he just loved something so strongly regardless of if it loved him, Like, you see how these guys cry when they lost their wives, and when it's the opposite way, like, sometimes they're not even shedding tears. I'm sure that if, say, Erica Kirk, right, who everyone is memeing on, and they're rightfully so, because this is the happiest widow I've ever seen, guys. This is the supposed trad cuck, mob that people are, like, getting behind, talking about how brave and bold she is for how she's, like, standing up in spite of the tragedy, and she does not seem bothered. This is the happiest widow I have ever seen. If he lost her, he'd be devastated. He would be devastated. He'd probably still be weeping now. He'd probably look terrible. Heck, I've seen YouTubers that just straight up, like, show more tears for, like, losing, like, a fellow YouTube person who they really enjoy making videos with. than somebody who was supposedly married and had kids. And it's not uncommon. There are plenty of people who have married who just did not love each other. I'm not telling you this from a standpoint of being anti-marriage entirely, and anti-relationships. I just say this because I want you to understand that even if this is what you truly want, there is a possibility, a very strong possibility, especially in today's day and age, where you are just riddled with all these like sprinkle chicks and stuff like that, right? Like your husband is dead, and all you can say was he was a good provider, sprinkle, quote unquote. That's what she said. And you guys you're willing to rope to get someone who doesn't even care about you. I'm just trying to offer a different perspective to let you know that, guys, like, there's a whole life that you can experience. I'm not going to pretend like I have fun wage caging, but wage caging has opened doors that I couldn't do before. Like, it allowed me to get my motorcycle license. It allowed me to, try and shop for motorcycles now, because I was originally going to buy one very soon, but it got bought, so now I'm looking for another one. And once I get it, I'm gonna have a very good time. I'm gonna have fun. It's gonna be fun to, like, ride that thing, pause. It's gonna be fun to, like, master leaning and all kinds of things. Like, there's a whole life to experience, guys. To me, the cherry on top should be sharing it. It shouldn't be the whole cake. It should be the cherry on top. And unfortunately, society has done a very good job of, essentially brainwashing us to believe that that is the whole cake. It's not. Never has been, never will be. Most people, even if they had kids, they didn't really have, like, a good marriage across history, guys. They just stayed together because it was convenient. And you're seeing this as a prime example. Like, a lot of us in this space, myself included, like, our lives are very rough. We're only just now maybe, like, picking up the pieces. Like, you gotta understand, guys, like, I wasted, and I don't want to say I wasted, because I was trying to take advantage of my years, but I had people who just wouldn't help me. My parents just wouldn't help me. My very early 20s, okay, as I'm saying this as approaching, like, late 20s. I'm 27 right now. I'll be 28 this year, right? Those early 20s, okay, those teenage years, they did not help me at all. I was trying so hard, and they just wouldn't help. They just wouldn't help, and it's only now that we're, like, picking up the pieces and making something. And it's depressing in a certain aspect. Not like my life is depressing, but it's depressing to know that, like, your parents have been alive longer than you. They've had decades to, like, get stuff longer than you, and I'm doing better than you. How is that possible? I just don't understand it. It just truly shows that there are just people who are just not mentally competent. They're not financially competent enough to have kids, and they had them anyway. I say this because I want you guys to understand that if what you really want is, like, children and marriage and a wife, you got to understand that that's a big risk that you're taking, number one, and it is a ton of responsibility. Like, this idea that you think that you're somehow going to mystically not have inhibition just because you have a girlfriend, that's not gonna work, okay? If you don't feel motivation to get out of that bed and at least, like, keep yourself in good health, it's not gonna change just because you're getting some cheeks. Like, it really won't. Trust me, it won't. You have become very comfortable in a habit, and it's going to take a lot to break that habit. Trust me, I know, because when I first started working out, and it's not like I was unhealthy, I was just very, very scrawny, and I still am in certain aspects, but I'm a lot more toned now. I would constantly make excuses to not work out and stuff like that. I would constantly make excuses to just play video games because I wasn't disciplined. And trust me, if all you're doing, as a doomer or a NEET or whatever, is just playing video games and stuff like that, then if you just mystically got a girlfriend, trust, you're not going to just start getting in shape. You're not going to consistently work out. You're not going to, feel like you need to put as much emphasis to get a job. Like, you're going to say that, but you're not going to do it. And, a prime example, even though I don't really care to start drama, is loser maxing. Loser maxing claimed that without, a family and stuff like that, you have nothing to work for. He's essentially a pseudo father to his, nephew, and he still doesn't have a job. His parents are old, and if something were to happen to them, what's going to happen to the kid if he's, the pseudo guardian? You see what I mean? Like, that didn't just mystically stop just because, like, now there's a baby involved. And I'm not going to just keep the, video about him. I don't really like mentioning people. I don't like drama, but it's a prime example of someone saying, claiming, excuse me, that if they had insert this girlfriend, kid, family, whatever it is, right, that all of a sudden they're going to be so motivated to try. And it's not true. I've even seen certain people who are homeless in this space say that, oh, if I had a girlfriend, I'd try. No, no, you wouldn't. You've gotten too comfortable. If you're not trying now for the sake of your own life, understanding how important you yourself are, you're not going to try for someone else because you're not even living for you. You're kind of existing, you know. You don't feel the value of life because you don't consider your life valuable. That's just the truth, you know. And I'm just trying to let you guys know that your life is valuable, you know. The reason why I'm working so hard is because I want better for myself, not because I feel like I deserve. You know, deserve is a very dangerous word when you start getting to feel like you deserve things, you know. Because the truth of the matter is, we don't deserve anything. It's very easy to believe that you deserve something, but deserves, justice, morality, all of these are human-made concepts, you know. This world is constantly trying to kill you. You know, it's amusing to me that people like to worship nature and go Mother Earth, Gaia, all this bullcrap, and it's just like, without your immune system, we'd be dead within a matter of moments. Just with the amount of spores and bacteria and stuff like that. Like this world is constantly trying to kill you. You know, like so. If I gotta bust my balls, a bit to get a little bit of some kind of peace in this world, then I'm gonna do it. Now that's just me. Like if you really feel like you are content to just neat. But at the same time, you can't sit around here and go, oh, I don't have any choice but to neat. If that's all that you want is to neat. You have to stick by your decisions. I have chosen to wage change, not because I like wage changing, not because I think it's awesome or that there's something that I'm contributing to the greater good of society or the almighty dollar. I don't love money, yes, I'm close to being able to afford a motorcycle, for example, but this does not fill me with joy. Okay. All of this stuff, like the amount of cash that I have in the bank, which again is quite substantial in comparison to my family, it doesn't make me happy. This is not something that I am proud of. This money is worthless. I'm earning currency that is dead trees, like metals, and now it's getting to the point where it's just plastic, just numbers on a screen. That's what we're trading hours upon hours of our lives for. Nothing. I'm very much aware of it. Okay. But I do acknowledge that that is the world that we live in. We don't live in a world that acknowledges that human life has more value than this. And it's not going to change. Because the kind of action, shall we say, that would lead to this being changed, that has been virtually bred out of people at this point. The amount of testosterone in guys is astronomically small, despite the fact that we're in an age where it's like if guys from previous eras were able to look at you and how big you can get just jacked and stuff like that because of the amount of food and stuff like that, they'd be like, my gosh, these guys are awesome. But even then, they probably had more testosterone just because of the fact that, hey, this was just their lives, this image that you have in your head of what men were, for example, no, they weren't all six packs and jacked and stuff like that. They were probably stocky and stuff, but that's just from life. It wasn't because they just were able to form six packs easy and stuff like that. That's fantasy. That's delusion. That's not what guys were. And you see that when you actually look at some of these old photos. They were just normal guys like you and me. Some were scrawny, some were bulky, somewhere in between. The body types were still a thing, I make these videos because it's a nice form of vent. It's a nice form of getting your thoughts out here and just understanding that, hey, listen, regardless of what you're going through, you're not the only one, There's always things that we're thinking about. There's always issues that, you have going through your head and stuff like that. And I personally feel like it's best to share them, for free. Not actually believing that some shrink that you're spending $200 an hour for to talk to you actually cares. Someone said something very amusing, and it's that the gals, the double X chromosomes, treat shrinks the way that some guys treat the strippers. And it's that you're raining money on this person thinking that they care about you. And some gal said, that's not possibly true, is it? And it's you're paying $200 for someone who is literally trained to emotionally manipulate you, and you genuinely believe that they care about you. Which is why they say, hey, don't forget to pay that bill, right? So, I'm just saying. But nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. I need to get my behind to sleep to get ready to go to the cage tomorrow. Luckily, I got night shift, so I don't really have to worry about, like, sleeping late, because I can sleep in. So, yeah, guys, I just wanted to make this and, just get this off my chest and kind of, explain why I've been making these videos. And it's not necessarily that something's going wrong. It's not that I feel I need to justify certain life decisions. It's just that I like doing this. I like venting. I like this little, like, video diary thing that I have going on. So, yeah, that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed. What are your thoughts? Do you guys like sharing content? What do you guys like to do to kind of like, get your thoughts out there? Do you go somewhere peaceful? Do you talk to somebody, or do you just kind of keep it all bottled up? I used to do that, but I think that this is better. Even if you chose not to, like, say, make a YouTube channel in the form of, like, share this, like, you could probably just make a private playlist and just have a video log. It's nice. It really is. It's like you get all this negative energy out of your system, and it's soothing. That's all I can really say. So, yeah, it's the main reason I do this stuff, guys. I thank you for your concern, those who were concerned and were kind of curious, and so I hope that answers your question, although it was in the form of rambling and stuff like that. But yeah, again, hope you guys are hanging in there. There's life beyond your pain. God bless. I'll see you next time.